8 ways the rich spend their days, which the poor don't know. According to the Oxfam report of 2019, only 0.8% of the world's population is in control of 44.8% of the total wealth of the globe. Imagine that. Here's another insane fact. 26 of the Earth's richest people have a net worth equal to the poorest half of the world's population. Around 3.6 billion people constitute the poorest half. This means the wealth of 26 people is equal to that of 3.6 billion people. This seems virtually impossible, does it not? Hearing this, you suddenly want to be in the nearly 1% of the richest people, don't you? Might seem unfair, the inequality which separates us from the richest 1%. But the global economic divide has been a burning issue, and many have studied it to figure out what the 1% of the population are doing right, or what the rest of us are too afraid to do. Here are a few things that the rich are already doing, which we should be doing ourselves. This is Wealthy Fact, where you come to watch, execute, and get wealthy. Please make sure to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. Follow the 4 rules of money. These are the 4 basic rules of managing money that the financially apt people follow. Number 1, pay yourself first. Both our academic system and our families ingrain to us the same course of adult life, getting a 9-to-5 job as soon as we grow up, sometimes even when it doesn't pay well, becoming financially independent and starting a family. Then, of course, taking care of that family by buying them a nice house and car. You purchase these things, usually on credit. To pay that debt, you have to wait for your next paycheck. When the month ends, you'll have paid all your bills, but what you realize is there's nothing left to save. The next payday arrives and you seem to be doing all of this all over again. It's a vicious cycle. What do the 1% rich people do differently? They put themselves on top of the list and pay themselves first. As soon as they get paid, they set aside an amount for themselves based on what they know they need to do. Usually this figure is based on X% savings account, Y% investment account, and Z% travel account. This may differ from person to person based on their preferences. You might also want to add an education account or a marriage account for your children. Or if your kids are all settled and independent, you might consider a retirement or pension account. Number 2, save. When you start to pay yourself first, savings happen automatically, and you might not even realize it. These savings help you get through any tough days. Say, if you lose your job, we leave it up to you to decide how you invest or what savings account to get. Just make sure that the money is growing, not just being kept somewhere safe. With time, you'll also understand how paying yourself first also translates into lesser expenses. This is because you only spend the money that is left over, instead of thinking about savings only if there is any left over. Number 3, spend on things you need, not on what you want. Consumerism promotes the idea of spending more and more money on products or services. Societies generally encourage consumerism. We spend our lives thinking about buying a fancy home or the latest MacBook. Brands create the need or the desire to want these items by introducing unprecedented marketing and branding strategies. Take a step back and think about all the items you purchased, even when you didn't need them. Settling for a Honda would still have taken you from point A to point B, but you went ahead and burdened yourself with debt for a brand new Mercedes-Benz. Did you not? Well, 1% of rich people consider buying things they do not need as stealing from themselves. Hence, they live below what they can afford. Apply this to your life, and you'll notice how you begin to have money to spare. Number 4, avoid debt. Credit cards, car loans, house mortgages, credit on technology and other household items. You name it. We've seen people accumulate all kinds of credit, use and abuse the power of multiple credit cards, and sign themselves up for items that are not worth the burden they come with. I'm not going to talk about fancy cars again, but think about the value of your purchase and compare that with the life of your debt. The majority of the time, the fancy car will begin to seem completely worthless. What do the top 1% of the wealthiest people do? They take the long and hard route of earning that money and making it grow through savings or investment. They also realize that there are no shortcuts to the process. The longer it takes to reach the required amount to buy, say, an iPhone, the harder it is for them to spend it on a high-end product. One thing is for sure, they end up spending a lot less than the poorest of us, even if it may seem like otherwise. Now that you familiarize yourself with the 4 rules of money, there is really one thing you need to do, and the rest will follow. pay yourself first. When you start putting yourself above all your bills and expenses, you'll have savings for a rainy day. Having savings means you have money to invest and grow. It also signifies that you have less to spend on other items, so you start to cross off items you want but don't need. Simultaneously, you adopt the approach of making wealth available before making any high-end purchases, so debt seems out of the question. Holistically, it becomes a lifestyle. Number 5. The rich see the glass half full, while the poor focus on the half-empty bit. Allow me to illustrate the rich versus poor mindset. Having lost all experienced and long-term employees of his business, the poor will get demotivated and even think of shutting down the operations of the business, while the rich will consider hiring fresh talent, which brings in a new perspective and is more cost-effective. Take another instance. Entering a new geographic market for selling leather bags, a brand finds out that nobody in that region uses leather accessories. The rich would consider it as the perfect chance of entering an unexplored market, while the poor would not even consider creating the need for leather products and quit. It's all in the head. A change in perspective can change outcomes. What the bottom half of the world's population focuses on are the challenges they face and the problems they have. You'll hear them come up with a lot of excuses for why they couldn't do something. On the flip side, the rich see the opportunities presented by the challenges and try to grow out of them. In other words, they are generally optimistic. Number 6. Network with successful people. It's a fact that the kind of people you stay with is the kind of person you become. If you want to become successful, you have to surround yourself with successful people. It's that simple. If you constantly socialize with people who have a negative attitude, those who speak ill of others or of the government, find faults in things outside of themselves, or blame their failure of the economy, it wouldn't take long for you to become a part of the crowd as well. You will turn into one of them. Rich people understand this, which is why they surround themselves with people with the right attitude. This is why you would see the top 1% of the people spend time with like-minded, successful people. They like the company of people who talk about success and opportunities and things they can learn from. Constantly conversing about the positive things in life keeps them positive as well. The world can become a place of opportunity instead of a terrible place to live in if we apply this mindset that the rich have adopted. The perfect example of this is immigrants in a state versus the locals. Immigrants in the United States and the UAE most notably consider the country a place where all their dreams can come true, while the locals only talk about the flaws in the nation. Number 7. Have the courage to self-promote. The rich and the poor both have strengths. Both of them can have leading jobs or start a business. What makes them different is the courage or the confidence to promote themselves. You'll probably never see a poor person talk about what they're good at or promote their abilities. This is because in the majority of cases, they don't even realize what they're capable of. And when they do comprehend it, poor people are seen to understate themselves and pass on their strengths as nothing. This is the sad truth. The top 1% of the wealthiest people are amazing at selling themselves. Number 8. Both versus either or. Opportunity cost. In economics, we're taught about this concept, which means letting go of something in order to gain the other. In other words, making the choice between one of two things. Growing up, this is how the poor half of the world is conditioned to think. Assuming they cannot buy both a $10 pair of jeans and a $10 pair of formal trousers, they're forced to make a choice between the two. Appears to be a good philosophy, right? But the rich, instead, have a laser-like focus on how they can get both. They will not throw away $20 instantly and buy both items, but rather, they find a way to earn $24 by selling or investing or using any of their skills, buy $20 worth of goods, and still be left with $4, which they can keep away in a savings account. Done listening this far? I know this might not be for everyone, and at the first go might even seem unreasonable, but you need to have a think about it all. So what's next? Start by blocking out all negative thoughts this instant. Find successful people in your circle and spend time with them. Focus on what's right instead of what's wrong. Capitalize on your strengths and learn how to self-promote. And above all, keep the 4 rules of money always at your fingertips.